afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Expat Fair. We are the Sool company. My name is Julia Mello, and this is my business partner. He's here, I promise.
Worked a minute ago.
There you
Hello.
go.
Yeah, I'm Daniel McLaughlin. I'm also part of the Soul Company. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for being here today and for coming to sit and listen to our little talk about our company, where there will be free alcohol.
Free booze.
So if anyone
Free
likes
tasting.
free alcohol, then you might want to make your way over to the stage.
We're going to go through a little bit about Korean traditional alcohol and our company. Our company is called the Sool company. Hands up, who knows what Sool means? Woo, excellent. Sool does mean alcohol in Korean, but actually it has a very long history in terms of Korean alcohol. So today we're going to talk a little bit about makgeolli, jeongju, and soju. Show of hands, makgeolli, who likes it? That is good, good. Show of hands, soju, who loves it? Okay, less hands. The hangover can be pretty brutal. Jeongju, does anyone know what jeongju is? Oh, I see some brewers in the crowd. So basically, these are the three different kinds of Korean traditional alcohol. And what we do is we offer classes and tours and tastings that give you kind of a perspective of what good quality Korean alcohol is. So basically, we have three ingredients. We have rice, water, and nuruk, the fermentation starter. And basically what we do is we prepare the rice in different ways. Maybe we steam the rice, we add the nuruk and the water, and we ferment it, and we get Korean alcohol. But actually what we get, after we ferment in a hangari like this, what we get is an alcohol that's very strong. It's about 21% alcohol. It can be anywhere between 12 and 21%, so it's very strong booze. First time you taste it, you might find yourself forgetting what you did that day because it's very, very strong. But actually, if you put it in the fridge, that alcohol will separate. If you remember being in a bar and having to shake your makgeolli bottle because it's all in different layers, it will separate in your fridge. And you'll get a bottom layer that's quite milky. This is called takju. And takju is kind of, if you water it down, that's what makgeolli is. But if you keep it in the fridge for a while, you get a golden clear layer at the top. This is called jeongju or yakju. And jeongju and yakju is actually the drink of the kings and queens. It was drink of the noble class, and it was what everybody wanted to drink because it was beautifully aromatic. It was a delicious alcohol. But then what you can do is take that jeongju and distill it, and that's soju. So actually soju comes from jeongju, and then when you make jeongju, you get takju. And that is basically all the different kinds of Korean alcohol. But it's also something that you can do very easily at home. Dan, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you can produce Korean alcohol in your home?
Absolutely. So basically, this is one thing that we do at the Soul Company, is we educate people on how it's possible to make your own alcohol in your own home. And I know that sounds scary. You're imagining like bootleggers up in the Appalachian Mountains causing fires with stills and things like that. But Korean alcohol is really simple to make. You need just three ingredients. As Julia said, they are rice, which everyone knows, water, again very easy, and nuruk. Now nuruk is something very unique to Korea. It's a fermentation starter, and it's usually made from wheat. And what we do is we prepare these three ingredients, we mix them together, and allow fermentation to happen. Now to make this in your own home, all you really need is a pan that can boil water, and maybe like a mandu steamer, a dumpling steamer to put on top of that. And if you can steam rice, then you can make alcohol. It's really, really simple. It's much less labor intensive than beer, less precarious than wine, and also the alcohol you get from this is much stronger than either of those two. So I highly recommend it for booze lovers like myself.
And myself. But the problem with brewing is that it takes a really long time. So what we wanted to do today is show you the stages of what you can do to create alcohol in your home. But that would be a stage time of at least 6 hours. Which was not going to be possible. So in the words of every cooking show ever, here's one we heard earlier. What we're going to do today is show you how to filter Korean alcohol. You might have seen these pots. Kimchi is often fermented in these kind of pots, but also alcohol is traditionally fermented in here. And what we have in this pot is an example of the recipe that we teach in our classes. It's a very simple recipe, as Dan mentioned. It's a steamed rice recipe. You can create this in your kitchen with very little effort, and you can produce really delicious alcohol. It's a very hands-on process. We talk about, in Korean food and alcohol culture, we talk about 손맛, which literally translates into hand flavor. Doesn't sound that attractive when I just translate it to English, but it means that everything on your hands will affect your alcohol differently. It means that you get something a little bit special to you and how you are. So we're going to show you how to filter freshly made alcohol through our setup here.
So, as Julian's already said, what we have here is a hangari. This is what is usually traditionally used to filter Korean alcohol, but obviously if you do this at home, this is a little bit cumbersome. So you can just use like a glass vessel or a regular crockery pot, or even like a plastic fermentation vessel, which in Korea are very, very easy to find. We have all our ingredients mixed up inside this hangari, and this has been fermenting for about 2 weeks. So you do have to be a little bit patient when you make this at home. But it's not too long. 2 weeks is pretty much fine. And you'll notice like how the rice goes from being very solid and whole and eventually breaks down into this, like, you can't smell this, but this smells really boozy right now.
If anyone would like to come up and see, you're more than welcome to come up and see and what it looks like, come up to the stage and have a little look. It's really an interesting experience to smell the alcohol. One of the kinds of flavors and aromas that we get is a very fruity, very floral kind of aroma. And that actually comes from the brew, from the fermentation startup. So you can kind of see here, the rice has all been broken down, get a nice smell, it's a bit boozy. And that aroma, you might think, ooh, it kind of smells like makgeolli. And that's because it's the first stage of making makgeolli.
Don't put your face right into the vessel because this does give off a little bit of carbon dioxide, and if you put your face all the way in and take a deep breath, you might have a little nap, which I don't recommend up on the stage.
We have been close to knocked out a couple of times because the alcohol smell is quite strong. And this is one of the parts about Korean brewing. It's very sensory. You're always evaluating on the smell, on the how it sounds, if it's still bubbling and cracking away, how it looks like, how it's been broken down. So brewing Korean traditional alcohol is a lot more like cooking, and it's a lot more artistic in terms of your evaluation of how it is. So now that you've got a good nose full of that, how did you think? Did it smell okay? Was it delicious? Was it alright? Delicious! Excellent, very good. So now we're going to show you basically the final stage, the best stage about brewing, is when you filter it. So what Dan's going to do here,
yeah, I'd like to
while I hold.
You want to hold that? So basically, we have everything mixed up here, and what I'm going to do is just agitate it so all of the liquid and the rice grains are evenly distributed and easy to scoop. And what we're going to do is place it into this, which is basically a mesh bag, and these are available in kind of any traditional market, any local market around the country. Very easy to find and very cheaply available. If you can't find one of these for some reason, you can always use a pair of tights from the Pyeongjang, which don't affect the flavour much, but you get funny looks as a hairy man buying tights in the shop. We're also using this, which are called dari, basically legs. It's kind of like a bridge, which is only necessary if you're brewing big amounts like this. And this is basically a sieve, which is just going to help support everything and help sieve out some of the particles. So we're going to take a big scoop of this deliciousness, put it into the bag, and that smells really strong. As you can see, all of the solids will stay in the bag and the liquid trickles through. Do you want more? We're going to keep going? One more scoop, okay. Okay, so basically what you want to do is knead this little bag until all of the liquid has come out. So you'll be surprised, you actually get quite a lot of booze from your batch, which is always a good thing. I think we do have enough to go around several times. So you want to squeeze everything out using your arm strength. And remember, this is also a time for you to get your sonmat, or your hand flavor, into your brew as well. And this is actually very good for your skin, surprisingly. It's not a cosmetic show, but you'll do fine if you make makgeolli afterwards. Your hands are going to be lovely, soft and pink. So it's an added bonus of brewing your own alcohol. So what you're left with in here is something called jigami. which is basically just a dry rice paste noodle, which you can use for baking or for making other drinks like moju, which is popular in Jeonju. And also you can use it to marinate meats and things like that. Have you ever used it as a face pack?
No, I haven't, but I have heard a lot of people talk about using it as a face pack because one thing we talk about Korean alcohol, it's alive. The yeast are actually still alive, and that's very different from other alcohols. Usually, other alcohols are pasteurized or wine is treated with sulfates. So this is very, very different. The yeast are actually still going to keep eating the sugar even after you put it in the fridge. So that leftover chigami you've got there, if you've got a tough bit of meat, as Dan was saying, it will actually help to break down and tenderize the meat naturally. And similarly, if you put it on your face, it's supposed to brighten your skin. I see some interesting faces in the crowd going, ew, gross. But there are different kinds of commercial products that have taken the enzymes out of fermented makgeolli, so it doesn't smell like makgeolli when you're putting it on your face, but it does have a lot of excellent properties for your skin. So Dan is going to pour that into cups, and we're going to give you all a tasting of what we have just filtered, because the best part of brewing is, of course, drinking what you have made. And I will warn you, the alcohol content is a little strong. It's usually, this recipe is between 12 and 14% alcohol, so it's much different to makgeolli. A lot of the makgeolli that you get in a supermarket or in a makgeolli bar has been watered down about 50%. So it's about 6% or 7%. And one thing to really know about Korean alcohol is that it often has artificial sweeteners. There's something called aspartame. And aspartame is used because it is a sweetener, it is a cheap method to kind of make it quite sweet. And it will also cover the flavor of any kind of fault in the brew. So you have to kind of be aware of what you're drinking. When you learn how to homebrew, when you learn how to do this in your house, it is a game changer. You have full control and you can create some beautiful recipes. The great thing about Korean alcohol is it's very forgiving. If you did a bad batch and it didn't come out very well, there's lots of things you can do with it. You can add fruit, you can add cinnamon, you can make it into a cocktail, you can add water, you can add honey. There's so many things that you can do with it. So it's something that once you learn the basic techniques, you can really let your creativity run wild. There's a lot of different things that you can do. So I'd like to invite you all now to come and have a taste of different alcohol. If you would like. I see some reticent faces. It is a very different experience. Yet again, announcement, free alcohol at the expat stage. When you're tasting, make sure you give a smell. Don't one-shot it, it is quite strong. But get kind of an idea of the different kind of characteristics. You can taste it's kind of, the mouth feels a bit different, it's more alive, it's quite tangy, it's quite strong. Dan, you might need some cups actually. Just there. There's more coming. So what did y'all think? Can I get an idea? Good? I get some thumbs up, some yes, excellent, good. Now, as I said, this recipe that you're tasting today, this is the basic entry-level recipe that we teach in our classes. If you have the capacity, like Dan said, a mandu steamer or something like that, you can recreate this recipe very easily. If you get bitten by the brewing bug, then you can learn more complex techniques and complex recipes that will actually, that will give you more freedom and more room to play with different kinds of things. But we at the Sool Company don't just do brewing. There's other things that we work on. We do a lot of education about the different kinds of alcohol that you can drink. We do basically tasting tours, brewery tours, anything at all about Korean alcohol. So while you're having your tasting, we're just going to play a quick video to give you an idea of what it is that we do. We take people out to breweries, we support a lot of the small craft artisan producers, and we try and introduce people to the world of really top quality Korean alcohol. Because it can be difficult to navigate the world of artificial sweeteners or quick fermentation. So we kind of get you into the top level of not just makgeolli, but also into cheongju and soju. So we'll just have a quick look at some of the things that we do. facilities where we can teach you different kinds of techniques right from the beginning. We're always including tastings in our classes, not just because we like to taste alcohol, but it's really important to evaluate what you're brewing. And we show you the different methods that you can put it all together. You can see this is nuruk and water and rice. We also have online courses. We have a free online course for anybody that wants to get just a taster, just a basic understanding. If you're not sure if you'll like it, you can get into that first. We take people out to breweries. This particular brewery Dan was at yesterday, and it's basically a very small handmade brewery that we do all of the helping and fermentation. We basically try and let the community of Korean alcohol know that we are here to promote them as well. So we do a lot of events, we make our own, and we also support the small artisan producers. We forge those relationships and give you the opportunity to try something that maybe before you wouldn't have the chance to try. And we also have lots of videos. We do YouTube videos, tasting videos, events all over the world. We basically are just trying to bridge the gap of Korean alcohol. Our tours and our website, we also have reviews of where you can go to drink, different kinds of bars that you can go to, and we take people out on tasting tours. And in Korean alcohol, one of the things that happens with Korean alcohol is we're usually eating at the same time. So it's a very important experience to learn different kinds of pairings. People always say makgeolli goes with pajeon. That's not always the case. There's other different kinds of foods that you can pair it with, different kinds of Western cuisines, Mexican food, lots of different kinds of things. So we're very interested in presenting Korean alcohol not just from a traditional perspective, but also from a modern interpretation of the different kinds of drinks. So if you would like to taste some more drinks, you're more than welcome. But I would like to ask if anyone has any questions, any burning desire to know anything about Korean alcohol. Yes? No? Yes? You have a son in Seattle? Yes? Absolutely. If you come up here, there's our card here. On the back of the card is our website. On our website, we have an online class. It's a basic danyanju class. So it basically will take him through all the stages he needs to prepare. We are working on more in-depth online education, but it's a really good taster.
Special yeast?
Yes.
To find the special yeast, would you be able to do that in Seattle?
That is a very good question. The heart and soul of Korean alcohol is nuruk, which is very difficult to find. However, in Seattle, there's a restaurant in Seattle called Kirin, which in Korean means giraffe. And he is one of the first producers to make makgeolli in his restaurant and sell it. He actually studied at our academy. So I would recommend him to go to that restaurant and ask him some questions. Kirin, yes, G-I-R-I-N. If you have any questions, you have our contact, please email me and I'll give you all those details. Any other questions?
What is dongdongju? Oh no! I knew someone was going to ask that question. So one of the interesting things about Korean alcohol is that over the last 100 years or so, Korea's had a very kind of complex history. There's been a lot of upheaval and a lot of change. And a lot of things that were traditional in terms of like cooking and in alcohol production have kind of been lost. So Korea is very regional in terms of the way that food and alcohol is produced. Everyone used to do it in their home. So everyone had a recipe for something, and everyone's recipe was slightly different. So dongdongju is an example of one of these old recipes that maybe was very common in a lot of households, and everyone had their own way of doing it. However, with the kind of more recent history of Korea, a lot of these exact techniques and exact methods have been lost. So there is an idea roughly of what dongdongju is, but there isn't an exact agreement. Like a lot of things with Korean alcohol, there's a nomenclature that's not exactly settled. So one of those kind of core disagreeable points is dongdongju. But a basic idea of what it is when you ferment your brew in the hangari, you let it ferment till a point where there are some like rice grains kind of floating on the top. Because that dongdong basically kind of means like the floating ants at the top of your brew.
They're not really ants, but it does look like ants. There's a lot of imagery.
But yeah, some of the old expressions for things like the steamed rice are like larva rice or like ant rice. So some of them are kind of gross sounding, but kind of cute to look at.
And so now a lot of breweries, actually modern day, they tend to trade off being dongdongju. So it'll be a little bit more expensive, or it will be a little higher in alcohol percentage. But as Dan said, there's really not much difference.
It's not necessarily agreed what that should be.
Any other questions? No? Yes?
Explain what kind of things can we add?
Ooh, good question.
What kind of things that we can add to our brew is what the lady just asked. Korean alcohol traditionally has very set things that are added in different seasons. For example, in the spring and early summer, a lot of people add flowers or lotus leaves to their brews. Later on in the year, some people even add soju to their brew to kind of act as like a fortifying Korean port wine style alcohol. And then at other times of the year, you may find things like negi or other roots that kind of grow in certain regions. So basically, there are so many possibilities of what are traditionally added to brew, but we kind of love tradition, but we also want to take the alcohol forward as well. So we like to experiment with all kinds of different things. So you'll find us making like, I don't know, pumpkin spice sort of style brews.
We've had some success and some ultimate failures.
Yeah.
There was a cookie dough recipe once that was not a good idea. But that's the great thing. It's such a good question because traditionally it does have a lot of set rules, but you can really, once you know the basic technique, you can just pretty much do anything.
So yes, fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices, anything that you can think of is potentially possible to add into your brew, much in the same way it is with beer. What we like to do is teach you the fundamentals of how to understand and produce alcohol on your own, so that you can then take away what you've learned and experiment on your own and discover what kind of flavors or infusions you want to make. It's very personal when you get to brew your own alcohol.
Any other questions?
Someone ask a hard one.
I know, that was pretty hard. No? Alright, well, yes.
Do you have your own brew?
Our own nuruk. Yeah, we do tend to make our own nuruk. I will say that nuruk is the hardest part of making Korean alcohol. If you've ever tried to make doenjang or soy sauce or anything like that, you do have to make a kind of wheat cake or something to start as a fermentation starter. Temperature control is extremely important when you're making nuruk. So if you're doing it at home, it can be really difficult to maintain that temperature. So in the right conditions, you can make your own nuruk, and we certainly do try with varying degrees of success and failure. It is 100% what you need to do if you want to take Korean alcohol outside of Korea. Because really what we talk about, why can't I get good Korean alcohol outside of Korea? It's unpasteurized, which means export is virtually impossible. It's producing CO2 constantly, so if it moves overseas, number one, it's a potential bomb, because if it's agitated, it will explode. Number two, the shelf life is very short, so by the time it actually reaches the destination, it could be done and dusted. So really, the future of progressing Korean alcohol outside of Korea means education of how to brew. And that means education of how to make nuruk. So it is something that we make, and we teach people the techniques of how to make it, but it is probably a lot harder than doing this. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions at all?
Okay, so if you are interested to learn more about us, if you maybe find your way on your way home going, man, that makgeolli was the best I've ever had in my life, I want to do it myself, there are some flyers down here where you can get an idea of the basics of what we do, but more than that, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Instagram, or you can visit our website where it's possible to book tours or arrange classes either as a group or on an a la carte basis. We do offer that service too. And we really hope that you'd like to share our passion of Korean alcohol and maybe take your education into drinking to also be making your own booze, not just drinking it.
It's a very addictive hobby. We've had people that took one class and then took 10 classes, and now they have separate fridges only for their alcohol.
Yeah.
So it's a very addictive hobby. It can get a bit expensive, but it's a lot of fun. There's plenty of tastings here if you would like to take more, or come and ask us questions. We're more than willing, and we'll just be around the Expat Fair today.
Thank you for coming. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.